My family, it's Yeyya with BTM Politics, and today I am joined by a very, very special guest. I'm joined by Dr. Dana Stilley. So we're super excited, or I'm super excited to have her on. She is a legislator in Rockland County, District 17. Uh,
Correct.
and so, Dr. Stilley, I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your life journey, and how you got to this position.
All right. Well, first, let me say I'm super excited to be here. And I really look forward to the time that we're going to spend together. I've had quite a journey. I attended, and this is a long time ago, I attended Brown University for my undergraduate degree. And then I received my MBA from Columbia, what was then Columbia Graduate School of Business. And I entered the workforce and spent many years working on Wall Street in various positions. When I left that, I was home for a couple of years, and then I went back to work in higher education and worked um, eventually as a higher ed administrator at a local community college here. And that was just a great time in my life because I really had the opportunity to influence students. I was on the student services side, and so that meant that I was responsible to really be sure that they had services that they needed outside of academic services. And so spent altogether at the college, I think I was there for a little over 10 years. And then when I left the college, was really trying to figure out what my next steps were going to be. And this was COVID. So a lot of downtime, a lot of time to try to figure out what was next. And I ended up establishing a small business, which I still run, called the Stilley Agency. And my primary focus there is to help other doctoral students complete their degree. So I edit dissertations of any and every kind, and I also provide some coaching for doctoral students. And then somewhere in the midst of all of that, I've always been very involved in public service in my community, and I'd served on various boards, and I was on the local school board for a while, and then all of a sudden someone says, "We're looking for good candidates to run for office." And I'm like, really? And they said, yes, would you consider it? So after a lot of prayer and thinking about how that would really affect my family and me, I decided, why not me? And decided to really make the run for a county legislator. And upon entering the race, I knew that I would be the first African American woman ever elected to a county position, but not many were key to that until I got well into running. And fortunately, I was able to beat the incumbent, and now I hold the seat. I was elected in November of 2023.
I really love what you said about like the idea of like why not me. I think that's such an important like because especially being Black women, maybe sometimes you grow up hearing that there are certain spaces that really just aren't meant for you, but it's like why not? Like if I feel like I'm capable to do something, like I should be able to just go for it. So I that leads perfectly into my first question. Talk to me about, I guess, your campaign trail, and then actually going into the legislative position as the first Black woman to be elected to that position. How does that feel? How does that inform the decisions you make on policy and things like that?
Oh, so that's a really great question. Well, I can remember during the campaign process, and I live in a very diverse community, although predominantly white. Um, but I can remember during the campaigning process being a little bit timid about knocking on doors, right? Because you have to meet people. And a very efficient way is to pick a neighborhood and go around and knock doors and introduce yourself and your platform, so to speak. And I can remember being very intimidated about that because who's this chick with all this crazy hair knocking on their door, right? Asking them for a few minutes of their time. But as time went on and I gathered more partners, I was not doing that alone. And so it was always easier to go to a door when I had someone with me. And what was very fortunate for me during the race was people knew my name because I was serving on the school board.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a complete, who is she, at least in terms of name recognition, right? People knew the work that I had done there. I'd served as the president, had a really great tenure in doing that work. And so that helped me, I think, tremendously to win the election. Also, it certainly didn't hurt when I could talk about my educational background, right? Because part of one of the major jobs of the legislature is budget and budget appropriation. And so I could easily say, and have said many times since, I'm the only one who is currently a member of that legislature with an MBA and or a math degree. My MBA happened to be in finance, right? So it was a lot of really learning how to share um, my accomplishments without sounding boastful, right? And really pointing out the differences in what I could bring to the campaign versus my opponent. And then I remember clearly, and I will always remember this, when I was preparing to make my comments the night I was installed. There were four new Democrats who won, giving us the supermajority, by the way. But I can remember in preparing for my speech, I needed everybody to understand that while this was historic, it was also a time that made the entire legislature better because they now have my lens, right? A lens of an African American woman that they did not have before as we move into policy making and deliberations and talking about how certain things affect one community versus another. And so I really made the point to impress upon not only the body, but everybody who's in the room that it's not really about me, it's about making the body better
Mhm.
during the policy process.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think especially in this time, because under this administration, we've heard so many things about, DEI hires and things like
Right.
that. But there is merit and there is value in solely that lies solely in someone's identity because of how you're approaching the world. And
Yep.
so I see that you are the vice chair of the special committee on minority and women enterprise. And I think that is very fitting given your background, obviously, as a minority woman, but also as a business owner. So, talk
Mm-hmm.
to me a little bit about that intersection and what you've learned from being a minority business owner and how you're bringing that experience to the committee and kind of like the interplay with the intersection of your identity.
I think the um, one of the biggest things that I have learned is that women, Black women, I believe this to be true. My experience tells me that we are a little bit intimidated about taking that step into entrepreneurship, at least older generations than perhaps yours, right? I was just talking this morning with a friend of mine who said that she was trying to encourage her sister to also take that step, and her sister just seemed to be afraid, right? So I think that one of the most important things to learn is that there is support, right? Don't really think that you have to go in knowing everything because the thought of writing a business plan is intimidating. And depending upon what you do, will determine how extensive your business plan has to be, right? And then, just again, look for the support, make the adjustments as you go. My current business is not where I started when I thought about becoming an entrepreneur. Um, and just be willing to make the adjustments, be willing to give it the time that it deserves before pulling the plug or really just saying that you can't do it. And here in the county, I feel like there's so much more work that we should be doing with the MWBE. And I think that will happen over time because, again, there's a lot of growth potential there. But I just think that for a variety of reasons, our community does not really embrace um, being an entrepreneur because it's hard. Where's your health insurance? Where's your check every 2 weeks? Especially if you're raising a family, um, it's a different world. But again, there are supports, and we have to learn how to find them and embrace them.
Exactly. And I think that's very important to like let people know that there is a community there. Because at the end of the day, like it's always easier to step into something new when you know you have that
Right.
safety net that can catch you.